Conversations with Nicole. Conversations with Nicole. Let's talk about it. Tell me all about it. I'm here. I wanna know what's on your mind. Ooh, the world needs to hear from you, and I'm so glad to have a conversation to reach the nation. And it's all about you. We'll help each other to discover innovative ways to positively change the world. Let's talk about. Let's talk about. Yeah. Let's talk about conversations with Nicole.
Greetings. Welcome to Conversations with Nicole. I am Nicole Everett, your host, and Conversations with Nicole is a talk show based in Tallahassee, Florida, focused on connecting the community through conversations. And today is what I call Wellness Wednesday. Wellness Wednesday is an opportunity for you, me, and my guests to chat about whatever we want to talk about. And today we are chatting about you are worthy to live in your purpose. You are worthy to live in your purpose. My special guest is Miss Melissa Comeau, who is no stranger to Conversations with Nicole. She is almost a regular because she's been on here so much, but we welcome her each time. Her focus is primarily on Black love, Black relationships, unapologetically. And so we are super excited and delighted to have her with us tonight. But before I bring her on, I want to hear from you. We are live on Facebook, on YouTube, and it's interactive. So we want your comments. We want your questions. If you will, put your city and state in the comments so that we can give you a shout out. This is an opportunity for us to engage with one another. We are all about mental health and wellness in Black and Brown communities specifically. And we are encouraging us to be well and get our checkup from the neck up. And so this is a space for us to do that. So I am, again, just waiting for you all to join me tonight, to join us. I have my orange and green on, my orange and green earrings, my FAMU shirt here. Look, I'm getting ready for the game this weekend. I missed last weekend because I was out of town, but I'm ready for some Rattler football this weekend. So hopefully I will see some of you all out at the stadium on Perry Street and just taking in all of the Rattler football festivities coming up. All right, I see my mom. Look, if ain't nobody else here, my mama gonna be here. Ma, I appreciate you checking in from Miami, Florida. Thank you so much. All right, well, while others are joining us, I am going to go ahead and read the bio of Miss Melissa Comeau. Melissa has 15 years of experience working with couples, individuals, and groups. She has a private practice specializing in relationship concerns and is currently the president-elect for the Central Florida Association for Marriage and Family Therapy. Melissa believes in the importance of multiculturalism and focuses her services on BIPOC women and couples. Melissa has experience working in college counseling centers, focusing on work with young adults, where one of the top concerns are relationship issues. She started her career working in community mental health and nonprofit agencies, including domestic violence and sexual assault advocacy agencies, where she received training in identifying unhealthy and toxic dynamics in relationships. She received her bachelor's in psychology, master's of science degree, and education specialist degree in mental health counseling at the Florida State University, go Noles. And she holds licenses and certifications as a licensed mental health counselor, licensed marriage and family therapist, and national certified counselor. She also is a qualified supervisor. Y'all help me welcome Miss Melissa Comeau.
Hey y'all, hey everyone.
Hey, welcome. So, Melissa, tell some of the folks that may not know who you are, even though I gave you a little bit about what you do. Tell us who you are in your own
Yes,
words.
yes. Thank you. I always love this question because it makes me think, right? We're so used to coming on these platforms and talking about what we do so much. But of course, our topic tonight is self-worth and purpose. So it's a big topic. We're going to try to address with y'all tonight. And so I want to say, I guess, let me see. So I normally always say that I am a first generation Haitian woman. Both my parents are immigrants from the country of Haiti. I'm also a wife and a mom. And I'm trying to think, what can I say to something that's different that I don't normally say? So in our culture, we speak Creole, right? So I can't understand it really well, but it's kind of hard for me to speak it, right? So I always find it very interesting if you come from a bilingual household, like how much of the language you can kind of adopt, so to speak. And so I always think about that part of it. So that's a little fun fact about me, but that's it.
Indeed. So I'm from Miami, and I only know South. That's when people say I'm Haitian, that's what you say, which is the equivalent of, I guess, what's happening, what's going
Yeah, what's up? Yeah. You got some under your belt, Nicole. You got something.
a little bit, just a little bit. Just a little bit. All right, I see some more folks have joined us. Mama Yada and Tally, thank you for being here. Nick Rains, our Singles Mingles co-host.
Hey, Nick.
Thank you for being here. We actually had a really great show last night on toxic positivity. All right, my cousin Vernon Brand in Virginia. Thank you for being here, Vernon. I appreciate it. And Mr. Johnny Johnson right here in Tampa. Thank you for being here, Johnny. I appreciate you. So, tell us a little bit about your practice.
So my practice is fully virtual. I see mostly Black professional women who either come in individually or with their partners. And my focus is relationship concerns. We do hit on other relationships, but primarily people call me for their romantic relationships, either, boyfriend, husband situation. And even though, and I said this, I think last time, but I think it's important to say again, especially for our topic tonight, that even though people tend to call me for their relationships outside of themselves, like with their partner, a lot of times what we're working on is their relationship with themselves, right? Not just their partner. And so that's been something that I've been learning on my journey as a couples therapist. And every year, every couple, every situation, I learn a little bit more about how much that impacts the relationships outside of ourselves, our partner, family, and friends. And so that's where my journey for self-compassion and self-worth kind of started coming in, which I've been talking more about on your platform, Nicole, but also on my own. And I want to say that's it for the most part. I feel like we also have a support group that we just started called Hang With My Sisters. Our therapist, Kanisha Joseph, runs that group. It's a really great group. It's also all virtual. So we have people who are across the state of Florida. We just launched it this year. We already are in a successful cohort of women who are connecting as we speak. And then we also host retreats as well, which I'll talk a little bit about later. So
Nice. So we got a few more folks that have joined us. Warren Cave. Thank you for being here, Warren.
Hey, Warren.
Jeanette and my thank you for being here. My sister Shayla. Thank you. And Nick just says internet echo. I've been trying to get rid of echo.
Yeah. Can your volume go down anymore on your device? See if that helps.
I can try, but y'all can barely be able to hear me.
Oh.
All right. We got Miss Sarah on here. Ozzy. Everyone, look who's back. 3 days in a row. Oh, you talk about Melissa. Yes, Melissa's back.
Yes, this is my third one this year. I thought about that. I was like, last year I did 2, this year I did 3 with you. Not even counting singles mingle, actually. So
Indeed. And we got Casey Horn. Good evening. Thank you for being here. All right, so y'all forgive the echo. I'm so sorry about that. I'll try not to talk too much. I know it's annoying. It's driving me crazy.
yeah.
All right, so tonight we are going to talk about you are worthy to live in your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start us off.
Yes. So last time we spoke, and this is how I end up always coming back, right? Like we started talking about it. I think in May or June, sometime earlier in the year, a few months ago. And as we were talking about it, I think even your mom was like, we need a part two, like, so people were wanting to talk about it more. And there were a lot of takeaways I think people got from it. And there was some stuff I think we didn't even get to, Nicole. There were some questions you had that we didn't really get too deep into. And so we thought about, okay, well, let's do a part two. Did a little spin on it because we added purpose to the conversation. So that just I may have to come back again, I guess, like the more we kind of go deeper and deeper and deeper. But just, I think what's helpful for us to start with, I guess, is for those of you that didn't watch the first show on self-worth with myself on Nicole's show, is that self-worth, or worthiness, people also call, is basically the unconditional value that you have just because you exist, right? So you don't have to do anything for it. It's intrinsic. You're just born, you're here, and then it's like your birthright, right? You are worthy just because you're here. We talked about before how that is a simple, way to say it, but it's not easy to practice, you know what I mean? Because of the conditions that are put on us in society, you know what I mean? So it's a constant thing that we're kind of battling. But also what I've noticed with my clients is that we don't always recognize that as an issue, because a lot of my clients go through therapy, are doing well, once they do the work, and still sometimes find that there's something missing, or they're not as happy as they thought they would be, even though there isn't really a big problem anymore that they came in for, right? And so then it became a question of, okay, well, you have all the things, or most, I guess people don't have everything they want, but like mostly what they want, but they're still not as happy with the things as they thought. And exploring what they feel like their value is to have these things, right? And so if they're worthy of these things, so to speak, or if something else is in the realm of worthiness that's kind of impacting them, if it's not directly related to the issue they came in with, is that just a theme kind of in their life, but they are unaware of it. And I do think that people are mostly unaware of that. I think people are more aware of the self-esteem, the self-confidence, self-love even. But the self-worth piece runs so deep, and it's not something that we talk about very regularly either. And so that's kind of where we kind of started off last time, and kind of where we ended. And then we kind of talked about like how we can practice things to help us not to increase our self-worth, because we agreed, Nicole, that we have self-worth already, but how can we recognize our self-worth that's already inside of us?
So I went back to my notes
from last time.
Yes. And we talked about self-worth having to do with not having to do anything and you still feel valuable. And I also wrote down worthy accountability partner.
Yeah. So the worthy accountability partner came from the first retreat that we did back in May, which is what this whole topic kind of came to. Well, I had the topic with my colleague, Brittany Carter, and then we did a retreat on it. In that, because the world is so conditional, you can, go to retreat, you can have quiet time. If you are a faithful person, you may go to church, you may do different things to kind of connect you to something higher. But then you got to go back to work, you got to pay the bills, got to go to school, in all these settings that are evaluating you to some degree, right? And so that is a little bit of a mind warp, I feel like, to hold on to the fact that you're worthy and then go out into the world where you're evaluated and assessed every single day in multiple situations. And then you start doing it to yourself, you know what I mean, at some point too. So then you never leave it then, right? If you're doing it in your own head. And so where the accountability partner came from, like, okay, how can the women at the retreat connect in a way that it can be meaningful, so that way they're not kind of doing this practice on their own. So we just encouraged it. I believe some of them did connect afterwards. And so kind of taking what they took from the retreat and be able to like hold each other accountable for doing those things, but in a loving way, not with no judgment, but just more supportive, because we don't want that to turn into now a conditional relationship, right? It's like, well, you're not holding me accountable in all these different things, or you're not doing that, like not in that way, more of a like, hey, you know what I mean? How are you doing? And so just the fact of like someone else, especially if you went through like that together, like say the retreat or something like that together, you all remember or know what you learned or what you took from it, right? So just that person texting you, be like, all right, yeah, I didn't do that thing I was going to do to help myself feel better or whatever. And so that's something where we really do need to do things on a regular basis for things to stick. I think that's ultimately kind of what it boils down to.
Absolutely. So I see Ebony has joined us. I want to say greetings to you. I want to get the viewers involved. So, again, this is a safe space, a brave space. and no judgment zone. So I wonder, how many of you may have struggled with worthiness?
Good
How many of you
question.
may have struggled with worthiness or self-worth?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I would say, like, did they recognize that they did too? I think that's another thing. Were you gonna add something else, Nicole? I cut you off.
I think that it probably happens more often than we may recognize or may be willing to admit.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you. And I also want to say that you can be confident and still be challenged by your sense of self-worth. I think that can feel like kind of confusing for people, maybe, or like, how does that? Because you can, let's say you see a confident person, you wouldn't think that they have self-worth issues, right? I think that's like maybe don't say yourself if it's hard to like put it on you, but like if you were to see someone who is intelligent, attractive, have all these things going for themselves on the outside, but then learn in some way that they actually are challenged by their own sense of self-worth, even though they feel confident in terms of what they do.
So no one has responded. At least if they have, it's delayed. So I will go ahead and be transparent and say I have struggled with my self-worth and still do from time to time. And when I have shared that with people, they have been so surprised because of, I guess, how I project, and I have a talent show, and I'm in the media, and I'm facilitating things, but no, it's a real thing for me.
Yeah. I appreciate you being vulnerable with that part. And I would say this too. I think maybe if for those of us that can't answer the question as a whole, because that's a big question, to answer and to ask, oh, do I have I struggled with it? I would say maybe think about seasons, stages in your life, roles that you carry. And if there was ever a time you felt like you were not good enough to have that fill in the blank, and I think that maybe may break it down for people a little bit more, because I do think I'm sure that it's not always like you just don't feel worthy and that's it. You know what I mean? There could be periods of time where you do feel it and you're connected, and sometimes. So I imagine like a lot of things, it ebbs and flows. You know what I mean? But I just want to kind of say it that way so it doesn't feel like such a big question. It's like, that sounds kind of scary to admit that. But just think about times where you didn't feel good enough. It could be a first date. It could be, becoming a mom. It could be that promotion. It could be, anything, so.
So we do have some comments. I'm going to have you read them. Ozzy's telling me to log off and log back on. I already did that one.
We tried that before the show, y'all. Thank you.
So can you read that?
Yes, I will do that. Thank you. Okay, I'll do it for us tonight. So Haitian Speed says, I developed my self-worth during my teenage years. Afterwards, I was centered. Oh, okay. So teenage years, I think it's kind of young for someone to develop their sense of self-worth. I guess, Haitian Speed, if you don't mind commenting, did you notice what you were developing at a teenager like that? But now as an adult, you can say, oh, I was developing my self-worth. So if you want to comment to that, because I don't know too many teenagers that know that they're developing. They might say confidence, like, oh, it's self-esteem, but to say self-worth at a teenager stage, I think is impressive. Another comment by Ebony Biddle, I think I said it right. At specific times in my life when I accepted less. Yes, I love that. At specific times in my life, because it's not just as a whole, you just feel worthless the whole time, right? It's more for most of us, it's gonna be like an ebb and flow kind of situation. But again, when we recognize when it comes up, it'll be more easily for us to address it. I think that's what we're trying to say, me and Nicole trying to say tonight. In a new environment on the job, the job is like, I don't know. The job thing for me always gets me, because I feel like it's one of those things where like school and work is like the most obvious places we get evaluated, but we also put our purpose and our worth in that so much. So it's like, it's just a setup, I feel like, in a sense, at least in the way that we do it here, in our conditional society. Casey Home, I think I said that right. I feel like I have a strong sense of self-worth, but I struggle with those around me seeing it. Okay. Casey, if you could elaborate on that, I don't even want to interpret that too much. I kind of want to hear what you have to say about that, because, I have so many questions. I don't know where to go. So help me, Casey. Add some more to that. Yeah. That's a good one, though. Oh, Warren. Next one. Sorry, Warren Cave. Yeah. I don't struggle with worthiness as much as I used to. Good. But I'm overcoming not feeling worthy or value to others. Okay, that's kind of what Casey was kind of saying, I think. At the end of the day, I know that I'm valued by God, valuable to God, and I am an asset to my family and all mankind. Yeah. No, that's so important because, first of all, we're talking about self-worth, right? Which is the worth to yourself, which is what Warren's talking about. But yeah, if we feel like our family and friends don't value us or people around us don't value us, that can impact our own sense of self-worth, right? Because we tend to look to other people to give us that sense of value. And so if we don't get that, then it could be a straight, hit to our own sense of self-worth. And so, even though Warren, I think Casey also was saying that other people, have troubles recognizing it, the fact that you could recognize it yourself and feel it yourself and have a spiritual connection with God allows you to foster that, right? And so hopefully what's been happening with you two, at least that said it, that even when you're in those moments, you can pull from things bigger and higher than yourself, if that is God, or just other people around you who see your value to remind you of your value, is what we need sometimes, because it is hard, I think, to do that by yourself the whole time. I think, yes, we want to mostly be able to do it or find a way, but we are communal people. We need support. We can't do everything by ourselves, right? And so to find that is so helpful. So yes, you want to have our sense of self-worth and then be able to get that support other places if we need help. Mm-hmm. Casey said, thank you for adding more, Casey. Yes, what Warren said, okay, we got it, is much better worded. That's exactly what I meant. Okay, thank you so much for adding that, Casey. I didn't want to misinterpret what you were saying, so that's appreciated. Yeah, that's tough. Sarah Grover Kroom says, I struggle with how my appearance looks to people because I've gained weight. Sarah, thank you so much for being so vulnerable. Like, you're on a platform with your photo and you're saying that. And I think that is very courageous of you to say it and to put yourself in a way that is vulnerable to everyone else. Because I'm sure you're not the only person that feels that way. I'm sure other people have had times and situations where they felt that way. And that's a great example. Nicole says this. And that's a great example of physical appearance is an obvious thing that we condition, like, is so conditional. Like, oh my God. Like, if we could I don't know if we could pick a better thing than our physical appearance, you know what I mean? And a lot of it we don't have control over. Yes, we can exercise and eat well, but also how your body responds to exercise, how your body responds to the food you eat, even when it's healthy food, that's your body. You know what I mean? So you can't, at a certain point, you can't necessarily change that. You can adapt it, you can adjust it, you can be healthy. But a lot of times when people struggle with their sense of worth as attached to their body image, or even the relationship with food and that type of thing, for the clients I've worked with, is not currently, but in the past, I worked with clients who have these issues. I have body image, but not eating stuff currently, but in the past. And so the tricky thing about that is, like, usually when people get into that part of it, there's never a end point. It's like when they put their value and their worthiness so much to their physical appearance, it's not typically like, oh, okay, I lost 10 pounds. Like they say, okay, I'm gonna lose 10 pounds, and they lose 10 pounds. Okay, they don't feel good enough. They got to do more. Or I'm gonna stop eating this. Okay, now I'm stop eating that. And so it becomes a spiral, and never, because they don't feel good enough, it doesn't matter what they do, they still feel like it's not okay where they're at and they need to do more. And so that because of physical appearance, you actually see the changes in people, and they might be saying, oh, you look great, and they still don't think they look great, And so that's where you can tell where it's like, okay, it's not just I want to be fit and I want to look good. It's a worthiness thing, because you set the goal, you met the goal, and all the goals past that point, and people are complimenting you, and you are exactly how you said you wanted to look, and it's still not enough,
So she further says she doesn't really want to go out in public much.
Yeah.
As a result.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And a lot of times I know that people are judgmental, you know what I mean? And we, I don't know if everyone's in the audience is a minority, but I know in the minority culture, every culture has a different relationship with food and body image and stuff. It's just different. But I know for ours, there's it's funny. I was talking to a client earlier. She's Haitian, just like I am as well. And we're talking about how in some Black cultures, the elders are very vocal about body image, especially with the young ladies. And I'm not of any other culture or race, so I don't know if that happens in other ones necessarily. I feel like I've had clients who are not minorities talk about their families making comments about what they eat. I have heard that, but not this constant just commentary on people's bodies and their body parts. Like, and this was just like even just elder women to the younger women or whatever. And so I was talking to the client about like, what does that do to us conditionally? Like to have to always have that messaging. And so it's kind of a situation where like, even when you leave your family system and you're on your own, sometimes it's like playing in your head. And so now as, I forgot her name, who was just saying that, Sarah. Yeah. So now you're out in public and you're, I'm not saying this is her specifically, but I imagine that there's this assumption that people are judging you for how you look, and not to say that they aren't, but we also don't know for sure if they are, and so now we're like making decisions off of something that we don't know for sure if it's a fact or not based on how we feel about it.
So Sarah said she agrees.
Thank you, Sarah.
And Casey said Caribbean culture is very critical of body and very vocal about it.
Yeah. It's just the thing. I don't know. Haitian Speed says, after experiencing different layers of trauma, living in Haiti and seeing how the struggles there are different, especially in a third world country, I learned to value myself early. Okay, so it sounds like some early exposure to things that were challenging. And so we're able to basically come to a healthy outcome of that and realize that, have some, I think humility is probably in there too, because you're comparing yourself in life experience to other people in other country, your country, and recognize that you have a sense of self-worth, even though you've been through these things. Man, that's a lot of work for a young person.
So Warren has an additional comment.
So Warren says, Ms. Comeau, can you elaborate to us on how the reactions of or feedback from others that really is, in a way, telling us that we're more valuable than we are because of how we live or act can make us shut down? Example is he has an example. Warren, why you don't smile anymore? Then I shut down because they didn't say why you don't smile more because you're handsome. Not that's not what's happening, but an example. Okay, so I think what he's saying is basically, Warren, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the question is like, if someone is giving you feedback or kind of by giving you a reaction to something, feedback and reaction, how sometimes it can make us shut down. I think, because the person is coming from their own subjective worldview of whatever they're seeing in front of them. So for you, you may not be smiling because you're tired, or you may not be smiling because, like, I know for women, like a lot of times, depending on your culture, you were taught not to be too friendly, let's say, right? And so maybe you don't smile because your daddy taught you not to be smiling at strangers, you know what I mean, kind of thing. But then as you get older, no one told you like what else to do with that, and so then you're being judged from that because of that behavior. So no one knows your backstory, basically, is what I'm saying, right? And so they're just judging you from what they can see on the outside from their own worldview, right? And that judgment then can add a sense of worthiness issues as well, or if they're maybe devaluing you because of what they're judging in front of them at that particular point in time. So that's kind of how I see it, is like it's a comments, feedback, but also they don't know, your story. They don't know all of you. So they're only commenting on what they see in front of them. But that's unfortunately how we assess things. Look at social media, right? Like we just take one little piece of something and now we have this whole story behind it. And so that goes back to what you were saying earlier, Warren, where you have to have a sense of self-worth just because you know you have it, even if they judge you from that one comment.
So Beverly said grace.
I've learned to give myself grace as I've gotten older. The grace is that's a topic I talked about a few times last year in some of my live talks, and that's such a powerful concept and practice, is to give yourself grace and other people grace. And it's a little bit different than forgiveness, because forgiveness usually means somebody did something wrong, like you did something wrong, so I'm going to forgive you or not forgive you. But grace is just the ongoing thing. It's just kind of like you don't have to have something wrong per se, but I'm just kind of operating in a space of grace for whoever I'm interacting with, and not assume, not judge. If something does happen, again, give you grace, so to speak, but not necessarily it doesn't have to always be about forgiveness. I think people use forgiveness and grace kind of like interchangeably, but forgiveness, I feel like, is more personal, and it's more having to do with something that was actually done, versus grace is kind of like an overall kind of concept where you kind of operate from, regardless of the conditions necessarily. Grace and self-compassion are so important. Thank you, Casey.
Indeed. So we are right at the halfway mark. For those of you who are just joining us, I'm on with Melissa Comeau. We're talking about you are worthy to live in your purpose.
Yes.
And so I wanted to bring up the self-worth piece and the struggle with it, which can hinder us from living in our purpose.
Yes. So, yeah, I know I like definitions, right? So earlier I started off with self-worth is basically you have value just because you're here, right? We talked about that last episode, last time I was here, and also the beginning, we started off with that. And purpose is basically your why, like why are you doing what you're doing? I know a lot of times we think of purpose in terms of your life purpose, like really big. And that can be really overwhelming, you know what I mean? Because a lot of people say, I don't know my purpose. Like, why am I here? And although it definitely can mean that, right? Like, why are you here? Why were you created? Why do you exist? It's even a bigger question. And at the same time, I think, although that's how we typically talk about it, I don't think that's the only way to look at it, right? Because that is very overwhelming, especially if somebody who can't answer that question. And I know a lot of people can't answer that question, you know what I mean? And it's kind of intimidating. So I kind of want to say that first, right? Like what self-worth is and kind of how to think about purpose as well. So if you think about how people usually talk about purpose, at least the way I hear it, is having to do a lot with their career or their job choice or how they spend their time. And, it makes me think, there's a lot of people who feel like they're in jobs or professions that don't satisfy them. That is, we spend a lot of our times in these institutions, but don't necessarily come home fulfilled in the work that we do. But we need to do it to survive, like to have a roof over your head, to eat, to feed your families, and that kind of thing. So it's really a difficult thing if we, think about self-worth, like, okay, I'm worthy just because I'm here. And then everyone's talking about purpose, in terms of like where they work and their career and their joys and stuff like that. And it's like, well, I don't feel that. I'm not happy going to work every day. I don't like my job, or I like it, but I don't know if that's my purpose. You know what I mean? Like there's like different nuances to it. Right. And I feel like the way they're connected, and I'll just say this and I'm curious what the audience thinks, is that once you get to a place of practicing your self-worth in a way that is reminding yourself that you're worthy just because you're here, then your purpose does not have to be attached to anything in particular. You get what I'm saying? Like it doesn't have to be attached to your job. And some people say, I feel like my purpose is to be a mom or whatever. But there's some women who are like, I don't know if that's my purpose. I got a kid, but I don't know if that's my purpose. You know what I mean? So like that whole thing too, right? So thinking about the fact that, okay, if I know my value is just because I have value, I'm here, all that stuff, like self-worth is saying, then it gives you, like, it opens up, I feel like it opens up for you to explore what your purpose is or what your purposes are. Because there's seasons, right? Where you don't necessarily have one purpose, and your purpose does not have to be attached to how you make money. You know what I mean? Necessarily. Of course, we would like that to be the case. We spend so much time there. But I also encourage people to think about, okay, what are just some other things that are part of your value system that brings you joy, that you're fulfilling not just yourself, but the community in some way. I think that's more of a way to explore purpose versus having it to be like with your career or your job. Right.
Yeah, I think it can be both and. And I don't think purpose is like a singular thing. I think there are many things. Right. Purpose to me is daily also.
Yes, I was gonna say that too. Yep. Yeah. It's a great way to think about it, right? Because if you ask what's your why, I think we like to say that sometimes, like, what's your why? You can ask yourself that question every day. And maybe if you are someone who's exploring your life purpose, maybe your life's purpose is connected to, and I probably think it probably is, right? Like what you're doing every day, or at least what you're exploring and what you're doing every day, right? Like, are you asking yourself that question every day? Are you exploring that with yourself? And then likely if you connect the dots over time, you can kind of see the theme, see the similarity, and not just in what you think you're called to do, but also what you're called not to do. You know what I mean? Maybe that's the avenue to get to what you feel like you should be doing. And maybe that's only for a period of time. And then, and that time is over and then there's something else, that kind of thing. And you can have multiple purposes at the same time, that as well. So it's not just singular and linear, I guess is probably the best way to say that. And I think when we struggle with worthiness, it makes everything closed in and boxed in. Right? Because we don't feel like we're good enough for that job. We're not good enough for that relationship. We're not good enough to do this or that. Then we're already like constricting ourselves a lot. And so then how can we then explore our why if we already think that we're valued to have what we just already have? You get what I'm saying? So it kind of creates that barrier to the purpose piece of it as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I got a lot of thoughts, but of course I'm a little challenged with
I
this.
know with the audio, I know.
So when we talk about purpose, like you said, we're not. It's not singular. It's not linear. I know for me, for quite a while, I struggled with purpose being like singular and like me knowing what it is.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that's a struggle. Was it something like attached to your career as well, or was it just other things? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's a lot for people. Yeah, and it's tough because a lot of times, even like the way we choose our careers and jobs and stuff has a lot to do with like family and like just other values that are not the highest value. So maybe that's like how much money you make with it, or how much maybe the location of the job or the career, how much not esteem, but like I guess what's what I'm looking for, like how much height it has, like, you know, from the name of it, or the titles of the job or whatever, like being a doctor, esteem, that's what I'm trying to say. So so we pick it for other, which are still values, but they're not necessarily the deep value. They're just like things that you know are valuing, that's why you're picking it. And so when you think about it that way, it's like, man, that's a lot of weight to put on something that maybe you didn't even pick yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know, but it's supposed to fulfill you. It's like, that's like a weird kind of thing to think about, you know.
So I want to again engage the viewers, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
in the comments. Let us know what, and I just said it's not singular. What's your purpose, or what are some,
What do you feel? Yeah, what do you feel? Yeah.
or what are some of your whys in the comments, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, I would love to hear people's
Yeah.
idea of what their sense of purpose is, or purposes are, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's a good, you know, I guess anything that makes us feel constricted is probably where we want to look at, that's probably not helpful or healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we can't do everything we want all the time because, you know, life is what life is, you know, so to speak. But when we feel like we at least have the opportunity to explore something, then it's allowing us to be able to see really what our choices are, really what our reality is. You know what I mean? It kind of like keeps it open. But if it's like, oh no, it has to be this, this, or this, then how do you even know from just those few choices? You know what I mean? So that makes it challenging to know your worth and also to know your purpose, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I guess the question that I ultimately want to get
Yeah.
to is your worth. Do we feel like our worth is linked to our purpose?
That's a great question. We have Warren at, let's see, Miss Comeau, I would love your feedback on someone's why or a person. I was taught and told that your purpose is whatever you would love to do every day, I know, without getting paid to do it. Well, there's a lot I would love to do and didn't have to get paid doing. Some would cost, some wouldn't. Example, I would love to travel every day, feed the homeless, clothe and the naked, and be a great philanthropist. But yeah, but the life be life in situation make it hard, you know.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's a great. He wants to see my on feedback on someone's purpose. Yeah, so I've heard that before too. But again, that question is based on like trying to help somebody find out what they want to do for their career, or their job choice, or their maybe major if they're in college or whatever the case is. And I don't think that's a bad question. I just think that it's very constricted. We don't, unfortunately, again, we don't get past that point. We just look at it for one situation and then we just leave it there, you know. So I think that if we understand that that's a existential question, or a question to kind of make you think, to pick something that you will enjoy and hopefully make money from, that's not a bad angle to take. But we don't do that with anything else. You know what I mean? We just only do that, or mostly only do that with work, which is a challenging thing to put it all on, you know? Ozzy Daniel says, evolve without putting a period on the end. Yeah, I like that. Such is life living on purpose. Yeah, I like that. There's not like, okay, the end goal, which is a lot of what, you know, we go off of for sure. A lot of it. Dominique says something. Let's see, teach. I don't feel like my worth is attached to my purpose. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
I like that. So, you know, I think you were saying something earlier, Nicole, as far as like if your worth would get you to your purpose. I think that's what you were saying earlier. Yeah. I think if you have a sense of I think, yeah, pretty much what I was saying too. We're saying the same thing. If you have a sense of self-worth, then it opens the door, I think, for you to explore what your purpose is, or to recognize it, to get the downloads that you need to know that, okay, this is it, you know, so to speak. But if you don't feel worthy, it's like, let's say your purpose dropped in your lap, but you don't feel worthy of it, you know? So it's like, you don't even know that that's it because you're so thinking that all the good things are not for you, or maybe that person's better for it, or so you just miss these opportunities to be able to see what's being shown to you as your purpose, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Purpose. HSB says, I am driven to make a lasting positive impact on my family, friends, culture, and community. Yeah, and that's large, right? That's not specific to a job or anything. It's just, and I love that because I think it talks more about, it's showing more about how to be than it is about how to do. You know what I mean? It's like leaving a long lasting impact, whatever that impact is, you know, maybe it's something for one person, it's different for the next person. But as long as you're touching some, at least in his case, HSP's case, as long as you're touching someone's life in a positive way, in this case, family, friends, community, culture, then it feels like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, you know, so to speak. I think that's really good. That opens up the definition for sure from just workplace.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So part of this conversation, I wanted us to explore like a lack of support hinders us in our purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was making me think about, you know, if, like I was saying earlier, let's say you are offered, I don't even want to use job for an example, I'm going to use something else. Let's say you did something that you really enjoy, that you got an opportunity to do. It don't have to be work related. It could just be something that you really enjoy. But it's when we have a low sense of self-worth, we almost feel like anything that's good or anything that's not say what we want, but something that's valuable is not for us because we feel like we're not worthy of that situation or that thing or whatever, or even relationships, let's say, you know, like if you have a partner who cares about you and they're showing you that every day and, you know, they're kind of like trying to be there for you and with you, but if they give you a compliment, if they express their love and affection for you, you're kind of like dismissing it and pushing it away. And with that piece of it, just it's within yourself, right? Like you don't have your own sense of self-worth, so you're pushing away that relationship. And I know sometimes people feel a little iffy about putting their purpose in relationships, but I think the way I see that is more of, if you, let's say you are in a partnership, romantic relationship, it doesn't necessarily have to be like, oh, my purpose is to be with this person, right? Because that feels kind of like fleeting for people, but more so about like, what is the purpose of y'all's relationship? That's kind of how I see purpose in that, right? So like you bring two people or more together, a community, even friends, like it could be anybody, you know, what is the purpose of this relationship, you know, versus like my purpose is to be with you or you, and, you know, that does feel like, okay, you could break up tomorrow, you know, but you still had that time together. And so how is that time used to fulfill the purpose and what it was intended to be together? And of course, you know, we usually go into romantic relationships for intimate, personal reasons, but your relationship does not have to stay on that level, right? Like, so like if let's say your partner has something going on with their family or whatever, and you have a skill set or something that could be, you know, groundbreaking for them, you can share that with your partner and they can make the connections for you to support, you know, their family in something, or something that they're doing in their community or whatever. Like, you know, that can be something that's not just about the two of you, but about other people around you, other situations around you that maybe had they not met you, because they don't have that skill set, they're not as good at that thing that you are, then you could bring that to the table and, you know, kind of like make the situation a little more meaningful for everybody. And again, had y'all never met or had never been together, it wouldn't have happened, you know?
All right. Iris has a comment.
Yeah. So Iris says, my purpose is empowering. I love it. And encouraging women. Look at this. It took some hard trials and challenges in life to learn that this was a purpose for me. My pain has birthed my purpose. And people say that a lot too. Their pain birthed their purpose. Not until they recognize they were like broken down. So they're like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. You know, and I really feel like the reason that, like Iris is making a really great point, that the reason why it's become so challenging, part of it why it's so challenging to know that is because we're conditioned to think that it's something else, right? Like if someone gave us a platform to explore it however we need to explore it, then we'll probably get to a little more, not easily, but like without all the extra stuff, you know what I mean? And so the conditions that's being put on us is like, for example, you know, I'm a woman, so it's easy to kind of talk about this, like becoming a mom. Like there's some people who do not want to be moms, you know what I mean? So, or maybe they are choosing not to be a mom at this point. But a lot of times in society, the condition is like, oh, you're a woman, oh, you gotta have a kid, you know? And it's like, and it's people say they don't want to have one or they choose not to have one right now, then it becomes this big thing where it starts to feel like their value is being attached to whether or not they become a mom. And that's so unfortunate because women have a lot to offer other than being moms. You know, moms is a great, you know, I have a mom, you have a mom, we love moms, you know, but
Right.
if that's not the case for that person, who are we to say that that's what they should be doing? And that's not an easy job. You know what I mean? So it needs to be something that the person really wants to do and feels that they have a purpose in it, or if, you know, something that they want to continue to do. So I think that's a good example of like, okay, if I have if I have the opportunity to explore whatever I want and I feel like I'm worthy to do that, then I can find out what my purpose is. But if someone keeps telling me is this, then how am I going to be able to go over there and see what's for me? You know?
Indeed. I want to give Michael Court a shout out who has just joined us. Thank you for being here, my brother. All right. Casey had a comment. If you could, Melissa, read.
Of course. Casey says, my current purpose is, I love that. See, y'all got the lingo already. My current, okay? My current purpose is to be a great mom to my son. I have a son too, Casey, so I relate. I am also exploring how to use my skill set to make a lasting impact on the youth, which I also feel as is part of my purpose. Casey, you got a lot of words. You know, I'm a word. Look, she got current purpose. She got exploring, right? So that she's not just tied up to one thing, and making it lasting impact, right? I love that. That is so good. That's so good. And that reminds me of like going inward, your small circle, your motherhood, all the way out to the community, right? Which allows for your purpose to be in multiple places at once and not just in one area of your life. I love this. This is so, so good. Thank you for sharing that, Casey. Okay, Warren has a comment. See, Nicole Everett, he's asking to see you. So let me see what he says. Before I hit the sack and go to bed early, I would love to thank you. Thank you for a great show. And I hope someone leaves a question at the end of the show to let Ms. Comeau come back on the show again. Oh, thank you, Warren. I always get something out of her conversation with Nicole. Oh, I'll be back. Give me, I don't ask me no questions. I'll just be back. Y'all gonna ask me nothing else. I'll just be here. She gonna have me just on the standby with all the other guests, just waiting for me to just pop on. Y'all just not gonna know it.
Right. The surprise appearance.
Yes, exactly. So thank you, Warren.
So you know, I got the echo. Court just joined us.
That's okay.
Echoing. So just give some kind of closing remarks as it relates to us being worthy to live in our purpose.
Yes. So remember, okay, I was leave a couple things. So we talk about a lot. Me and Nicole be going in, right, Nicole?
Yes.
So we be going in. So tonight I want y'all to remember self-worth, worthiness has to do with you being valuable just because you are here. It is your birthright to have a sense of self-worth. You don't have to do anything to be worthy. I know we struggle with that, right? We have to practice that every day. You know, it can't be something that we just, pray about, retreat about, and then just keep it with us, because the life be lifing. So we got to practice it. And then purpose has to do with what is your why? Like, why are you at this job? Why are you in this relationship? What is your why? What is the purpose of what you're doing? We want to remind you that purpose does not have to be singular or linear. You can have multiple purposes at one time. You can have a purpose for a season and it's no longer your purpose, right? And I didn't say this part, but this is very important. Your self-worth and your purpose is very personal, right? So a lot of times, society and our culture try to tell us what those things are, but it's for you, because no one gets to experience what your sense of self-worth is but yourself. No one gets to experience what your sense of purpose is but yourself until you give it to the world, right? You get to choose where that goes and how it goes. We don't get to see it until you get to grace us with that. So once you remember that it's a personal exploration, it's for you, then you'll be able to allow yourself the space and grace to explore that. And then to surround yourself with people who are like-minded in that way, who lack judgment and will give you the space to kind of figure it out, I think that's it. Anything else, Nicole?
No. Did you talk a little bit about
the treat? No, I don't know if you wanted me to do that now or you wanted me to do it later. Okay.
Yeah. And then tell me how to connect with you.
Yes. So with all that being said, myself and my colleague Brittany Carter are doing another retreat. We did one back in May. I think I said earlier. It was called You Are Worthy. So we just kind of got our feet wet, exposing that to a small group of women, intimate space, in person in Orlando. We're having another one coming up in October. It's a Saturday, October 14th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. in downtown Orlando. And so we'll be talking about pretty much what we talked about tonight, but it's going to be in person for a whole day to kind of disconnect from your work, family, and just kind of be with a group of women to work through what your sense of self-worth is, how that's connected to your purpose. And we're going to do interactive activities, and you're going to leave with steps on how to basically get to what your purpose is through your self-worth. So it's not going to just be, although talking and connecting is nice, me and Brittany are really adamant about making sure that people leave with something, again, so you can practice it outside, because we know that the world can be challenging on that. So we don't want you to kind of be trying to figure that out after the retreat. So you're going to definitely leave with something to practice as well. So that's it. And then how to follow up with me is on IG. It's my practice name, Heartfelt Counseling Center. That's a great way to keep up with the retreat. And the link is in my bio there as well. And then for clinical services, so individual, couple, or group counseling, the number is on the screen to call for that. If you are going to reach out to me for clinical services, the phone number is best, because social media is not private to talk on things like that. So just make sure you reach out to me on the phone call for clinical. But if it's just presentations, retreats, and things like that, then social media is a good way.
Are you accepting new clients?
I am accepting new clients. Yes. I am individual, couples, and groups. We actually, our group is going to start a new cohort in January. And so we are accepting referrals for that all the time, because we always want to be ready for the next cohort. I also need to say too, I forgot to mention this. So I launched my candle line. Yes. So this is here in the background. I don't know if you see it. So this is, so like Nicole was saying, I am the Black love advocate, right? So I'm the relationship expert too, but I am the Black love advocate as well. I am two of those things. I have multiple purposes, basically, right? And so this is my set. I'm gonna take a couple more minutes, Nicole. I'm sorry, because this is like a really important project for me. And so I collaborate with my sister in love. Her name is Junie Victor. Her candle line is called Lakai Home Essentials. And so I was so inspired by her journey of developing her company, where she makes candles handmade. She makes the vases cement handmade with the wax as well. And so I was inspired by her journey, and I got to smell a lot of candles, because, I'm in the family. So she was like bringing over samples and stuff for like 2 years, like smelling everything. And so I was so excited to see her journey that I was wanting to come up with something that I can offer the community, that they can experience Black love in aromatherapy kind of vibe to it. And so we have a set. It's called, the brown one is called Nurture, and the gray one is called Protect. So Protect and Nurture are the actual names of the candle, and they're inspired by Black love, and Lakai Homes helped me create them. And so I told her my vision. She went in the lab. She was cooking up. We had all these different versions of it, and we came out with a perfect batch. And so we did a soft launch about 2 weeks ago or so. It's on her website. Nicole, can I put it in the chat? Can I put it in a private chat, and then you can put it? So this is her website. They're on there now. See, I'm all talking about purpose and stuff. I forgot about my candles. Let's see. Okay, so that's her website. And she has a lot of great scents. I think Nicole sent you one. You smelled it before. It's so good.
It is.
It's so good. Because I figure, if you come to the retreats, if you even though I do virtual, I'm going to find a way to kind of have all my clients experience it. But I wanted to create an experience for clients that's not only focused on therapy, because I know some people, need other ways to self-care, or maybe they're not ready for therapy, or need to decompress after a session. They have their candle right there kind of waiting for them. So that's kind of what I wanted to accomplish. Yeah. So that's her website, lakaihomes.com. That's where you can find the candles.
Yes.
Yeah.
They are lovely.
Yes. Thank you so much. And you don't have to buy them as a set either. You can get one or the other, but we kind of have it together in case you wanted to. But, you need both. You need to protect your Black love and nurture your Black love, right? You need both.
Absolutely. Wonderful. All right. So minus the echo, hopefully you all have enjoyed this show tonight. Thank you, Melissa, for being my guest.
Yes, thank you for having me, and everyone for participating. It was a lot of participation tonight, as usual, but I always love seeing that on your show, Nicole.
It was. So Ozzy, left a comment. If this was helpful or beneficial to you, please let us know in the comments, and please share this video with others that you think that can benefit from it. Replay it.
Yes, we love the replays.
We love the replays.
Yes. Oh.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So I ask you all to subscribe to Conversations with Nicole YouTube channel. We are here Mondays and Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. And the focus is mental health and wellness in Black and Brown communities.
All right.
Good.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Ozzy will be Monday, and we'll be talking about patience.
Patience?
Uh-huh.
I got a 4-year-old. I need to watch that show. I need patience. I need more patience. They challenge you, these kids, man. They be challenging you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Casey, for your comments too. You're so amazing.
Yes, for sure. And thank you, Haitian Speed.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Thank y'all.
Yes. All right, good people. You all have a great rest of the week, and we'll see y'all next weekend.
Bye.
Next week, rather. Bye.
Mhm.